My husband's parents requested I eat at a different table on a family holiday. Over the journey, nobody communicated with me directly. When I questioned my husband, he shrugged. Just their way. I grinned and replied, just wonderful. I also have my own approach. They discovered what I had done the next morning, and panic set in. Looking back, the indicators were there always. The tiny Remaximus, the contemptuous stares, the way I was always regarded as an afterthought in my own marriage. But I adored my husband Maximus, so I paid them little attention. I reasoned that things would change if I just continued trying and stayed patient. Not that they did. Rather, I discovered that a family vacation meant to be a nice, laid back excursion to Hilton Head. South Carolina became something else. One thing I will never forget. We had just got to the resort. It was a lovely location, the kind you would see in travel publications. White beach, palms, the sound of distant waves breaking. I was quite eager. I thought maybe, just maybe, this trip would be different. Peter and Valeria, my in-laws, would at last be friendly to me. That we would sit together, laugh, strengthen our family. I made a mistake. We had supper at a good restaurant first night. The waiter led us to a big table arranged just for our party. Peter spoke just as I was about to settle down next to Maximus. Oh, he murmured, shaking his head. Must be a mistake. She will want her own table. Blinking, I realized I had probably misheard. I'm excusing myself, I replied. Valeria hardly turned from the menu. That's simply how we do things. Looking at Maximus, I waited for him to say anything, to explain to them this was absurd, that I was his wife rather than some hapless stranger. Rather, he let out a sigh. Showed. That's simply their manner, he said. Their way. I so settled down at my own table, solo. I ought to have left there straight away. I did not, however. I remained, wondering if it was just a strange custom, one-time event. Still, it wasn't. I got ready to go to breakfast with the family early the next morning. Anticipating them waiting, I strolled down to the hotel restaurant. Not were they. I sent Maximus a text message, not responded. Before I spotted them, already seated at a big table, mid-meal, I meandered about for over half an hour, laughing and conversing as if nothing were wrong, like I wasn't even in attendance. I came up perplexed. Why did you keep me in the dark about your coming down? Peter hardly glanced up. We figured you would work it out. Valeria took a drink of coffee. We do things this way exactly. I turned to check on Maximus. He was eating already. Hence, this behavior seemed rather typical. That became clear to me. I was not a member of their family. Never had I ever had. Maximus, too? Not on my side, was he? The remainder of the journey followed this trend. I sat alone myself every dinner. Every group project, they willfully neglected to notify me. I learned about their private boat trip when I came into their images on Instagram. They had a fine wine tasting. I just saw suited up and walking out the door as I passed them in the lobby. Later I questioned Maximus about it. I replied, trying to keep my voice cool. You could have texted me. Once again he sighed as if I were the one acting disruptively. Simply said, this is their style. He only ever offered me that as his response. On the fourth day, I quit. I gave up searching. I stopped inquiring. They wanted me to be invisible? All right. They did not know, however, what was ahead, because I, too, had my own style. That evening, I returned to the hotel room and began to work while they were out enjoying their ideal little family vacation and drinking. I was not only seated at a different table these days, I was almost ready to totally withdraw. And they could feel it just about here. Pulling up my inbox, opening the reservation confirmations, I went right to work. Because, let me guess, I scheduled everything. The lodging facility, my name is. The renting vehicle, my credit card here. The supper bookings, my page. For weeks, Valeria had been looking forward the resort spa day. Oh, sure, I had reserved it as well. I called off all of it. I cleaned their ideas off the map one by one. Their quarters? canceled their renting car? Gone. Their lovely supper at the beachfront restaurant? Not occurring here. I even gently told the spa that Valeria would not be visiting when I phoned them. And then? I departed after packing, picked the rental vehicle. I was already traveling toward Charleston when they were toasting their ideal trip and clinking glasses. At last, at peace, I reserved a luxury suite, ordered room service, and sat on the balcony staring at the ocean. Back in Hilton Head, back then, one felt ready to go into panic. Charleston woke me up feeling, for the first time in days, rejuvenated. As I watched the waves wash in, sprawled down on a fluffy beach chair, and drank my coffee, the ocean wind floated into my hotel room. My phone began to vibrate then. Maximus. I let it ring out. Valeria then. Maximus once more at that. Next, Peter. I switched on mute on my phone and grinned. At last they were noticing. I pictured the precise instant they came to understand. Peter groaned and stumbled out of bed, then found himself greeted at the door by a hotel manager. "Sir, your reserve appears to be problematic." Mid-stretch, Valeria rolls over to get her phone, ready to review the day agenda, only to find a stream of cancel-through emails. Maximus, scratching his temples, puzzled, still half asleep, heard his mother's voice grow from moderate annoyance to full-fledged yelling. Their accommodation was empty. No car, no intentions. I grinned over at my coffee. A few hours later, I checked my messages, at last bored of the quiet. "Maximus, wherever are you?" "Maximus, what the devil is happening?" "Maximus, you have to correct this. Right now." Just for fun, I decided to pick up his next call. "You are where?" Maximus asked for the second. I responded, Charleston style. Silence. "Charleston, what the devil are you working on there?" "Still enjoying my trip." Quiet. In the distance, I could hear voices. Valeria was screaming at the hotel personnel. Peter was shouting under cover of silence. "You canceled all?" Maximus questioned at last, his voice softer now, as he still found it difficult to accept. "Yes." He drew a quick inhale. "What you have done, do you know? They're nowhere my folks could remain. We had ideas." "Oh no, you left us stranded," I murmured, voice full of false compassion. "That has to be really unpleasant." Maximus remained mute once again, most likely understanding I had spoken his own words against him. I went on. "You all wanted me to be different. I so delivered what you requested." He said, "This is crazy. You have to return," I gushed. "No, Maximus, I honestly do not. I hung also." I then learned exactly how poorly things went for them. Their search for another somewhere to stay became frantic since the hotel was completely booked. 20 minutes from the resort, they landed at a dark rural hotel, the one with flashing lights and an unusual air scent. No rental vehicle meant they had to Uber everything, but Hilton Head isn't quite loaded with rideshare drivers. For them, surge prices really impacted hard, and for weeks, Peter had been boasting about the elegant meal, already completely booked. They had to eat in a haphazard tourist trap, surrounded by screaming children and terrible fish. When Valeria found her reservation vanished, she had a full-fledged outburst at the spa. She insisted they fit her in nonetheless. They lacked. Maximus's subsequent furious writings gave me all of this. "Maximus, you really simply left us like this?" "Mom?" Maximus is enraged. At the spa, she felt ashamed. "Dad, Maximus is crazy with the eatery. Maximus, I hope you find pleasure." I was. For them, I reasoned that would be the worst of it. A little annoyance, a taste of their own medication. Then, however, something rather re-Maximusable occurred. A few hours later, my phone buzzed once again. This time it was not Maximus. Maximus's cousin Adeline sent this note. Ariel. "Hey," wanted to say. I heard what occurred, and, quite truthfully, "Excellent for you." I scowled, going over the note again. Though Adeline and I had always got along well, she wasn't exactly my confidant. "Me, wait, what exactly you mean?" Her answer made my tummy turn around. Adeline, they handled Maximus's ex-wife the same way. I sat up upright. The ex-wife of Maximus. His first marriage ended because they grew apart, he had always told me. Not anything spectacular, simply unchangeable variations. I had no doubt about it. Still now, though? Me, just what do you mean? She traveled with them on a family vacation. They treated her like trash all through, made her seat at a different table, disregarded her, pretended not to be there. She departed midway, applied for divorce 1 month later. My pulse raced. Adeline, I believed you knew, so I said nothing earlier. But reading about what they did to you. He never told you, I realized. Not sure. Neither had he. Since I never would have gone on this vacation if he had. If he had, I would have understood this was not just their way. This was a trend. Maximus also. He knew just precisely what was occurring. He had also let it happen anyhow. Maximus rang once again that evening. I replied this time. He spoke straight away, his voice low and tight with frustration. I need you to repair this. No, you are not understanding. I cut him off. My parents understood fully. There was nothing about customs here. This aimed at control. You knew they would treat me this way, and you let it take place. Quiet silence. Who then informed you about this? Bingo. I started to chuckle. It is thus true. Not first among them was myself. Further quiet. Maximus sighed next then. Look, my folks can be a bit challenging. Still, they mean well. Maximus, they hardly see me as belonging to the family at all. He paused. I knew, right away and there, he was not going to stand up for me. He never had. Come back, he said somewhat differently. Now let's correct this. I looked out at the sea, at the waves softly kissing the coast. No, I answered once again with calm voice. I believe I corrected it already. And I hung up. I hung on Maximus and then glanced at my phone, my head whirling. Maximus had known. This everything has been witnessed by him previously, and he still let me approach it straightforward. I was done, not just angry now. I slanted back in my lounge chair, poured another drink, and tried to savor the remaining evening. But something kept niggling at me. What else had he lied about if he had misled his ex-wife? I resolved to do some excavation. Opening Facebook, I looked for Paisley, Maximus's ex-wife. Before, I had never considered looking her up. Now, however, I had questions and sought answers. Her profile was private, but I went through her common friends looking for someone who may be ready to communicate. I next came onto her sister's profile, Alyssa. She also wrote for the public. Just after Paisley and Maximus broke up 2 years ago, I clicked on one. Never allow a man's family bring you down. Never let them persuade you that you are less than you really are. Better is what my sister deserved. Each of us attempted to warn her. Never again. My gut turned whirl. Looking deeper, I came across an old Maximus from Maximus's cousin Adeline, the same one who had messaged me. She ought to have listened to us. She is free now at least. Listen to them? My heart hammering, I sat there. I had no idea what to do. I could forward Alyssa a message. I could find out from her exactly what occurred. Was I ready to listen, though? I gave the screen a lot of lengthy looks. Then, at last, I inhaled deeply and typed, Hey me, I believe we should discuss even if this seems really weird. She answered in less than 5 minutes. Alyssa wasted not even a moment. Alyssa, when would you be likely to get in touch? That one sentence struck me like a stomach punch. You already know who I am, then? Alyssa, sure. We had been waiting for this. My fingers frozen on the keyboard, I fixed my gaze on the screen. We? Me? Just what do you mean? Alyssa, Paisley wasn't the first one you know. She definitely wasn't the last either. My breath seized. Me? What then are you saying? Alyssa, I mentioned Maximus has done this in past. Again, more than once. His parents had experienced this previously, several times. Alyssa, and if you're speaking with me right now, I'm assuming you too just went through it. I felt queasy. This wasn't just a sporadic trend. This game meant something to them. Every woman Maximus brought into his life, they engaged in a weird little ritual. His partners never really fit a family, just challenges. Maximus, he let it pass each time. Why then did nobody inform me? Alyssa, we experimented with. Maximus, however, constantly makes sure his ladies remain secluded. He tells them his family just follows customs or has eccentricities. He makes sure their inquiries don't become too frequent. Did he ever tell you Paisley was the issue? I closed mine. He had. Paisley had been characterized by him as demanding, someone who never understood his family and who often caused drama over little events. These days, though, I understood the truth. Paisley had not been particularly dramatic. She was caught, and so was I right now, at least as I had been, until now. That night I stayed up instead. It ached in my breast to realize I had squandered years of my life on this guy. But there was another as well. Something I couldn't really pin down. Why had Maximus phoned me so much today? Why was he thus desperately needy? Then, around 6 in the morning, I had my response. An unidentified number generated an SMS. Ma'am, here representing the Hilton Head Police Department is Mark. We have to talk about a missing persons report your spouse submitted. I sat up quickly enough to almost knock my phone off the nightstand. Report of missing individuals. My thoughts flying, I hurried to phone back. The second cop grabbed. I blurted, and I'm good. I have not missed. Pauses. Ma'am, then are you claiming to have departed freely? Exactly. Clearly, I departed on my own initiative. My hubby knows precisely my whereabouts. He has been non-stop phoning me. The cop let out a sigh. Your spouse said you went without saying anything and have not been picking his calls. He claimed he worried about your safety. I tightened my jaw so tightly my teeth ached. This had no bearing on anxiety. This is control. Maximus had not been concerned about me. He had been attempting to compel me to return. I let a long breath in. Officer, I am rather good. Right now I live in Charleston. I departed Hilton Head under will. I do not want my hubby getting in touch. I am not absent. A stop. Would you want to formally ask for no further correspondence? I hesitated. I then, at last, let out a breath. Yes, I'd. And I placed the first legal nail in the tomb of my marriage, just like that. Not 1 hour later, my phone buzzed with fresh messages. This time Valeria was sending it. Valeria, I find it hard to believe you would treat us this way. I laughed loud. I passed over it. Still another message later. Valeria, you made Maximus bring the cops in? Do you know how this looks? Oh, I made Maximus bring in the cops? I rolled my eyes and drank once more from my coffee. The texts started to arrive then. Valeria, this family has done nothing but welcome you. Valeria, you really are rather selfish. Valeria, you have to come back and solve this. And last, Valeria, Maximus will make life rather unpleasant for you should you not return. I froze. It was not even subtly different. That constituted a threat. Sitting back in my chair, I again went over the message. I had believed this was just about control, almost about their warped little family games. Now, however, I understood something much worse. They were not only attempting to denigrate me, they aimed to break through me. And if I delayed, Maximus was ready to ensure they were successful. I glanced at Valeria's text for some time. Should you not return, Maximus will complicate matters greatly for you. It hardly constituted a warning either. It came with promises. I felt it now, the change. This went beyond their mere coldness or dismissiveness. I was meant to roll over and lose. This was a struggle. Still, I wouldn't. Not tonight. I inhaled deeply, knelt, and sent one solitary message back with Knuckles. Perfect me, too. Let us make things challenging now. I then reserved a Charleston hotel conference room and invited Maximus, his parents, and Adeline, among other people. I was willing to bring a conflict straight to their door if they wanted one. I waited in the meeting room late the next morning. The large wooden table was laid with only bottled water and the dense hush of expectancy. I didn't linger very long. The door opened violently. Maximus entered first, his mouth firmly closed, and I feared his teeth could break. His parents followed. Valeria's heels clicked loudly on the floor, Peter's face already flushed with wrath. Last, reluctant, Adeline arrived with folded arms. She nodded slightly to me. Whether she was here as a mediator, a witness, or just for drama, I had no clue. I pushed back in my chair. Good, you could all make it. Maximus spoke with a sharpness. What the bloody devil is this? I grinned gently, slow and deliberate. A dialogue. You have been really eager to chat. Let us therefore have a conversation, Peter snorted, arms across his chest. You find this hilarious? No, I said coolly. I find that to be pitiful. You folks play sick little games with the ladies in your family, and you at last chose the wrong one. Valeria's eyes became narrower. You let go of us. I sighed. Laughed, really. Oh, I broke apart from you. That's rich. From the folks who spent a whole vacation acting as if I never existed. Maximus grabbed the back of a chair and breathed forcefully. You are distorting things out of proportion. That was all. That turned out to be the moment. Valeria trembled as I furiously banged my palms on the table. That is your wife. My voice rang coldly and precisely throughout the room. Not unfamiliar at all is asterisk. Not some hapless foreigner. Not random. You let them treat me as nothing, and I am your wife. And you, I tapped a finger at Maximus. Not this was not the first time. You let it happen anyhow, knowing precisely what was going on. His face became white. Valeria cut fast, her voice high-pitched. We were only slavishly following convention trash. I turned around. It isn't custom. Control is what it is. This is a test, and you fail every lady that visits this family. Maximus's head trembled. You're overreacting. I grabbed my phone, extracted Alyssa's texts, then dumped them on the table in front of him. Go read it. He started to hesitate. Go through it. Maximus reached for the phone slowly and browsed. With every phrase, I saw his face constrict. Then he dropped the phone like it burnt him. There is no evidence of anything here. Peter opened his arms across. You are pulling up past events. Nothing about it relates to us. I looked at Valeria. Is it correct? You threatened me in a mail last night. Maximus would make things tough if I missed it. You warned me. Her lips closed tightly. Adeline let out a faint whistle. Indeed. Maximus looked over at his mother, narrowing eyes. You accomplished what? Valeria paused stiffly. I was attempting to get her to grasp what? Maximus spoke up. Given years of playing this game, that you treated Paisley the same way? Peter changed uneasily. Valeria glanced at him, but harm was done. Maximus's jaw started to twitch. Christ, and I saw it just like that. The fissures, the little break in his well-crafted allegiance to his parents. The instant he understood I had not been mistaken, that I had never missed a deadline. Maximus turned around back to me. He really seemed uncertain for the first time. I fixed my gaze on him, waiting to find out if he will at last say anything significant. Then, however, sighing, he ran his hands through his hair. I'll correct this. My gut sank. That came first in his instinct. Not apologies, not ashamed. Just improving the optics. I slanted back and exhaled gently. You really do not comprehend it, then? Silence. I got up, rearranging my luggage. Maximus, I am not returning. That broke him out of it. Wait, what? I'm gone. His eyes became wide. You are indeed serious. Adeline sneered. Boy. By now, how have you not worked it out? Valeria's voice surged. This is really ludicrous. Your marriage is being thrown away on a misinterpretation. I gave my head a shake. Not, Valeria. You tossed that away. You and Peter, with your horrible, twisted approach of handling others, simply too powerless to stop it, was Maximus. Maximus stretched for my arm, but I moved back. Wait, let us discuss this. I raised a hand. Not true, Maximus. You spoke. You provide justifications. You allow them to rule you. Nonetheless, I'm finished listening. I headed to the door with my phone in hand. Now Maximus's voice seemed almost frantic. Wait, to where are you headed? I turned back, one final glance at him. I'm walking out. Valeria laughed incredulously. You cannot just call off a marriage? I looked at her, my face insensible. Follow me. I then strolled out the door. Divorce took 6 months to complete. Maximus begged, blamed, even accused me of overreaction, but I never turned around. Adeline kept in contact. She told me everything collapsed when I left. Maximus apparently addressed his parents at last, and it wasn't good. Peter spoke of him as feeble. Valeria sobbed, declaring I had brainwashed him. Maximus saw them for what they were initially and for the first time. For me, it made no difference. I had left already. I settled back permanently in Charleston. After finding a new apartment, I got back in touch with former friends and began reconstructing my life. Months later, one night, I received an SMS from an unidentified number. Maximus, I just noticed this now. I'm apologizing. I gave it a lot of lengthy glances. I later erased it. As I was free for the first time in years,